Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new, please subscribe. So today we're going to be putting together a 4B11 head. I'm going to show you guys how to rebuild it. Now before we get into doing that, I do need to clean up the valves a little bit. They got a little carbon deposit on it, so let's get into that. So this is what I'm talking about. You get a little bit of carbon buildup on these things, and yeah, before you throw them back in your new head, you definitely don't want that on there, getting sucked up into your brand new engine or your existing engine. So we're going to need to get this thing cleaned up. And what I've found that works pretty well is just a little red Scotch-Brite and a drill, and also a little hose like this to put on the stem. That way when you chuck this thing up, you don't mar up the stem on here. So the only other thing I'd recommend is a little WD-40, and you put that on the Scotch-Brite pad, and you get to go into town. And you don't really need to make these things polished because they're going to be exhaust valves anyways, so you're going to get carbon back on them. But you do want to clean them up so that way when you go to lap them, you get a good seat. So like I said, just get yourself clean Scotch-Brite and tear off something about that size. You don't need a really large one. And then you take the valve and chuck it up into here. And just get it snug enough. Like that. And then take a little bit of WD-40, spray it on here. And I just got these towels here to wipe it off. And then you just go to town. Don't keep it in the same place for too long. You kind of want to move it back and forth. But now that we've done the head of it, we'll wipe that off, and then we'll get all this area right here as well. So I'll spray a little bit more on here and work on that section. So I got all the valves cleaned up as best as I could, and we are ready to lap the head. But first, let's just go over the parts. So I got the valves right here, and then over here is the GSC S2 cams and the Beehive springs and retainers that I'm going to be using in here. And over here we have the cam caps for the camshafts. And then that guy right there, that is what I'm going to use to compress the springs once we got everything on there. The only other thing that I don't have right here right now is the valve stem seals, and those are GSC as well, so we'll be installing those. But more on that tool later. For right now, let's get to lapping these guys. So in order to lap these valves, we're going to need this compound right here, and we'll also be using this little suction thing on the heads of the valves in order to get these to seat properly. So first thing you do, I guess, we'll just start with the intake side and put just a little bit on here, just like that. And stick that guy right in there, just like that. And try this end. There we go. That ended up working out pretty well. We'll continue on with the rest of them, but something I would tell you guys is make sure you mark which one goes with which one, because whatever one you pulled out of the head, it needs to go back in the same place. Also would be true about, since we just lapped it, it's got to go back in the same hole. So I'll just use this little pin right here and mark the head of them to label which one's which. That way I don't get them confused. Alright, it's all done. Just make sure that you are very thorough when cleaning out this paste, because you don't want this stuff in there. It's like a fine grit little sand that grinds down the seat. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you get all this stuff out. You don't want it floating around your fresh head. Now we're ready to put the valve stem seals onto the head. So what I think works for me is with these GSC ones, just use a 17 millimeter socket and then a little mallet, and just gently tap these things on there and they'll go on. Just like that, guys. Easy. Let's knock all these out real quick. Now that we got all those installed, I'm just gonna put the valves right in there, and we're gonna lube these things up because we don't want to raw dog it with a little oil here. And just remember put the right ones in the right holes. There it is. So now that we got all the valves installed, it's time to put the springs in. All right, so just set these in like so. Actually, I suppose. Check out these retainers and see. That would make more sense. Okay. So, these these go in one way. Just place those in there, and your little retainer goes on top. You do that for all 16. I had to actually bring the Evo 10 back in the garage, so I got it set up over here on my workbench, and I've already attached the universal tool onto the head. Now I did the first one, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's a total pain in the ass. I have this other tool that I use to take them out, and I don't know, it's kind of nice because then you can compress the thing down, have your hands free, do all that with the retainers. But I'm going to go ahead and knock all these out off camera, and then I'll get back at you guys. But the gist of it is you just basically pull this down and then try to get the keepers back over the valve stem. So we'll do that. I'll be back with you guys. Alright guys, we're back. So that took like 3 hours just to do, I think it was 6 valves with that universal tool. I highly recommend not using that. It's fine if you're taking the keepers out, but trying to put the keepers back in, holy cow, that was a pain in the butt. I ended up using this tool, which is actually for Subarus of all things, but it's made from Torque Solution, and it just bolts up to our head and allows you to put tension on the spring and then have both of your hands freed up so that way you can get the keepers in. So we got all the keepers in and we are good to go. This is going to be a wrap on this video. There's no sense in putting the cams in because the head's got to go on the motor, and in order to do that you have to take the cams off so you can slide onto the studs. So we're not doing that today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and be sure to subscribe, because I think next thing we gotta do is build a motor. Alright, till next time guys, peace.